In this video, we're gonna redesign the Mazda RX-8 into a modern car. I can't wait to show you the process of doing that. But before we jump into the redesign, let's have a look at the design history of the RX-8, how it actually came to be. So it started back in 1995. Mazda wanted a successor to the very successful RX-7, and this is what they came out with. This is actually an official sketch from the Mazda design team. You can see how the styling or sketching techniques have changed over time. I love these type of sketches. It's very analog, a lot of markers that brings out the artistic expressions of the designers compared to today when we have a lot of digital stuff. This is a very cool sketch, and I think it has the same athletic stance as the RX-7, something that is a little bit lacking in the RX-8. It's still a beautiful design. However, this was during the time when Ford came into the picture when it comes to Mazda and acquired the brand. And what Ford said is they don't see a benefit from Mazda creating another sports car, because at this time they had a very successful Miata and the MX-5 selling like crazy. Unfortunately, this design was never developed further than this concept car from 1995. But the engineering team within Mazda, they loved this RX-1 so much that they kept working on this in secret to come up with this design right here, as we know today being the RX-8. And these sketches right here and the concept are from 2001, and I think they did a really good job, first of all, turning these sketches into the concept, because they didn't lose any of the stance, any of the lines and the proportions of the sketches. I think they translated really well into the concept. This is also from 2001, but in order to put this into production, they need to work a little bit more on the functionality and the manufacturing processes, as you know, going from concept to production. But have a look at this, just how well this concept now translated into the production car. And this is a rare design for me, because this is one of the very few cars from this time, the early 2000s, that I think actually looks better in production form than it did in the concept. The concept looks very sleek and very stripped down. There's not a lot of surface treatment going on here. Everything is almost like they brought the melted cheese era of the 90s into the 2000s, but in between 2001 and 2003, the general design philosophy of brands or globally changed from the melted cheese into some more structures in the design. You can see that specifically. Look at the front view and the hood. This has a very sleek, very anonymous shape to it, but here we have a clear line in the hood going into this typical Mazda smiling face grille. And I think this just looks so much better than the concept, which is, as I said, super rare for this time. But you can see that they added the proper door handles, the mirrors got bigger. Typical production car going from concept to production changes that you need to make. I love that they added the diffuser in the lower part, kind of reducing the overall height. Here everything is body colored from this point up to this point, making it look maybe a little rear or rear heavy or high in the rear end. But by implementing this black diffuser in the rear, you cut into this body color and reducing the height, where the body color starts from here now up until this point, making it shorter, and also adding some creases and lines in here, some nice surface treatment to further reduce the height and implement more identity into the design. So this production version came out in 2003. They did make a facelift of this in 2009. That's the one you can see right here in the bottom, and this makes it look like a much modern car, specifically looking at the front end and the changes that they did to this point, the bumper. It looks a lot more modern, almost like it could be a car from today. They also changed the headlights a little bit. This looks typical 90s design, while this looks more like mid 2000s to late 2000s design. Looking at the changes in the rear, we have new taillights. I do like the original taillights of the RX-8, but this also creates more identity for the brand. And we have a new diffuser in the lower part here as well, and some changes to this section with the outlets, with the air outlet now being redesigned, and added some sort of indicator right here, maybe even a vent. I'm not sure if this is a functional vent or not. And this is the era where Mazda had very pronounced fenders both in the front and in the rear, creating this athletic, strong design specifically over both axles, both front and rear. So let's jump into the redesign here. Let's take the 2003 model and redesign it into something that could potentially be built today. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna update some of the graphics. We're gonna work on a little bit on the proportions. because I think the proportions is one of these things that if you want to have a modern car, it needs to be a little stretched out and also a little lower today if you want to have a sports car. Work more on the sculpturing of the lines that we have in the body. For example, I want to keep the strong fender muscles both in the front and in the rear. However, I want to redesign them into maybe a different shape. I don't know if it's going to look more modern or not, but just makes it different from the original 2003 car. And I also want to have a strong shoulder line that cuts in through both of the doors into the front fender and creating this air outlet in a new design, almost like a triangular design that I'm going to put at the very end of this redesign. I love the new design of the Mazda Miata of the front end. I think it's a really cool looking car. It has that aggressive look to it, but at the same time also sporty design. So that's what I think encapsulates the personality of an MX-5, and I think the face of it really emphasizes that very well. So I want to put the sort of an MX-5 front onto this design. I'm going to redesign the headlights. I'm going to redesign the lower part, the bumper part, the intakes on the side, on each side of the front end lower part. And of course, I'm going to add some new wheels onto this design, change the side mirrors, make everything look more modern than the original 2003 RX-8. The thing with this is it's a pretty funny story. So the engineering team within Mazda, they kept the development of the RX-01 alive by stretching an existing MX-5 or Miata chassis, and this chassis or this concept that they were working on became known as the cockroach car because it kind of looked like a cockroach when you stretched out the Miata chassis and added this sloping, this curvature on top of it, which is the greenhouse. And the lead designer of the RX-8 was actually the son of the designer of the RX-7. And imagine that. You have your father's design, which is the legendary RX-7, which I think is one of the best looking Mazdas ever. And your job is to take your father's design and then try to make it into a new car that has the same spirit as the original. That's not an easy task to do. So the original idea, as I said, came out in 1995. The first concept came out in 2001. Then it went into production in 2003. And it was designed as a front mid-engine car and rear-wheel drive. Of course, you have 4 seats inside, and this car was designed to fit 4 adults in the so 2 in the front, but it's not a 2+2 car. It's not sold as a 2+2. This is sold as a 4-seater, and it also had 50-50 weight distribution because the engine was mounted or installed behind the front axle, which makes it a front mid-engine car. And they also had the fuel tank ahead of the rear axle. So all the big parts of this car sits within the axles in creating this 50-50 weight distribution. One really cool design feature of this, which is super unique for the RX-8, is the overlapping design. So the rear doors, you can only open the rear doors if you first open the front doors. And this has to do with the fact that they wanted to actually fit 4 adults inside of this car. The production of the RX-8, it ended in 2012 in Japan, and by then Mazda had produced 192,000 RX-8s since the beginning in 2003. So let's have a look at this redesign and what's going on here. I really like the overall proportions of the RX-8. However, I think, as I said in the beginning, I think it lacks some of that slimness or athletic look of the RX-7, and I kind of want to bring some of that back by lowering the greenhouse just a tiny bit and adding some design features in the lower part, for example, a front lip, a side skirt, and a rear diffuser that sticks out a little bit more in black so it contrasts the red color, making it look maybe a little not as tall if we were to have those in body colored. But I'm really excited about how this turned out, and it would be cool to bring back this design. Maybe, I don't know, a lot of people love this engine, but it's not the most efficient engine when it comes to, for example, fuel efficiency and reliability, but it was still a very unique engine. That's my redesign of the RX-8. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.